Hey everyone, welcome back to A Rural Music Teacher, a podcast for music teachers who have chosen to go off the beaten path. I'm your host, André Wilkins.
And I'm Katie Oglesby.
Hey Katie, hit us with our podcast values.
This is a podcast based around positivity. We want to be solution-based in our careers, learning from each other's experiences and strengths as rural music teachers. This really needs to be a safe space to be vulnerable about our struggles in music education and figure out solutions together. So, André, like we talked about this last time, this is not a place to throw others under the bus, not a place to judge others, and our music teacher egos can be pushed to the side so that we can really get down to the root of it and learn how to be better teachers for our kids.
Absolutely, Katie. Thank you for that reminder. Today's program, we're going to talk about our programs, our course load, classes we may not have expected to be teaching, classes that we did expect to be teaching, but we may be having struggles in. So Katie, why don't you tell us what you're offering at Salida Middle School right now?
Right now, I'm offering 7th and 8th grade choir, 5th and 6th grade choir, a 5th grade band, which is our beginning band, a level 1 band, which is kind of that first out of 5th grade, or for any kids who are just starting an instrument, or maybe need a couple more years before they get to more advanced band work, and then a level 2 band, which is our advanced band. I'm also teaching a jazz band, and I get to co-teach marching band with André in the fall. What about you?
Well, at Salida High School, I am obviously co-teaching marching band with you. That takes place in the fall during our concert band class, and that is a non-audition group that as long as Katie gives me the thumbs up or the kids at least know what instrument they think they're going to be playing, they're welcome. And then we have an audition jazz band where students either have recommendations from Katie or they play a live audition for me or they were previously earning an A or better in the class. They're welcome to join, and that is concurrent enrollment credit through our local community college, Colorado Mountain College. I also teach concert choir, which is a non-auditioned come on sing choir group, and then I teach beginning guitar. I teach an intro to theater, and then on the years I have enough kids, I teach an intro to music theory through Western Colorado University and history of rock and roll through Colorado Mountain College. And then, of course, like every other music or high school teacher, I have an advisory class.
Yeah, of course.
So, Katie, tell me, when you were an undergrad at CSU, what did you think your job was going to be?
I was all about band. Miss Clarinet over here, I love band. Like I talked about last episode, and marching band and all those things. I thought I was going to be teaching middle school band. That's what I was really focusing in and trying to become an expert. The first time we met was when André was presenting at our Colorado CMEA conference, and he was doing a presentation. What did you call it, André?
Oh, it was called "You Got a Job Where?"
Yeah, and he talked about like teaching things that you're not an expert in and stuff like that. And little did I know, I would not only be working with this guy one day, but I'd also be teaching classes that I didn't know I would be, right? I never thought I would be teaching choir. I thought, oh, I'm going to be teaching band. What about you, André?
First I thought I was going to be teaching history. And luckily when I changed my major, which was so much better, I thought I was going to be a high school choir director. I thought I was going to be one of those high-powered music programs where you taught 5 different choirs at different levels and did music theater. And little did I know the joy I found bopping along on my tenor sax would also translate into the joy I have teaching band. But yeah, definitely thought I was going to be a choir director first. When I was in grad school, my advisor, Dr. Miller, said, okay, now that you've got your graduate degree, what do you think you're an expert in? And I didn't feel like I was going to have 10 kids go to All-State, either band or choir. But I knew how to at least be happy in a small town in Colorado. So that's why I ended up doing that clinic in CMEA. I was fortunate enough to have him choose it. And that was actually a really, really wonderful experience. And I love how the music world makes it a small world.
Right.
Well, obviously your band and your teaching choir.
Yeah.
What do you have for us, or for the other band directors that might have to teach choir?
Totally. So I was scared going into choir. I was never really in choirs in middle or high school. I did one choir practicum in college for 8 weeks. That was my choir experience. So I went into teaching choir ready to learn. I knew I could match pitch. I knew I could teach solfege. And I knew some songs. So I knew I could like play piano and teach them by rote. I just knew I was going to learn, right? I guess I figured I know how to teach. I've been trained on how to teach. I can figure out the choir part, right? And so I, of course, went back to my experiences with practicum and all those things. But really, I've learned so much over the last 5 years of teaching choir. And now it's one of my favorite classes to teach, which is wild. Some of those challenges, learning to play piano, learning to play multiple parts, which I still can't do very well. Even today, I was teaching a new part, and some of my kids have good rapport with me, and they're like, "Oh, Miss O, good luck with that part,"
Nice.
Only sometimes that hurts my feelings when they're like, "Oh, piano," But I've just had to practice a lot. I've talked to people that know choir better than me, to André, to the teacher who was in my spot before me, my predecessor. Mary Sandell is a fabulous musician and fabulous choral musician and singer. I've talked to her a lot and figured out how she teaches her youth choirs, and gone to the CMEA singing sessions and learned, found the songs that I like and that would work for my choir. It's been a lot of kind of trial and error. But like I said, I love the freedom that choir has. You get into your own routine, but there's one less barrier when you're teaching choir than sometimes in band, because you don't have the fingers and the embouchure and all those things, right? There's definitely things I need to learn, like vocal technique. Oh my gosh, I need to read back on my vocal technique books and go to more sessions about that, because those nitty-gritty things I'm still learning. But teaching songs, teaching literacy, I feel like I'm getting the handle of. I can do that because I do that in band as well. One thing that has kind of helped my choir program in the last 2 years, I started a musical theater part element to our choir program. So one semester out of the year, both choirs do a musical. And that's been really successful. I got that from the kids. They were like, "Can we do a musical? Can we do a musical?" They really wanted to, because at the elementary level, the 4th grade choir does a musical every year, and they love it. And there was no musical theater in the middle school. So the kids wore me down, as they usually do, and I was able, I jumped into it, tried it out last year. It was very successful, and now we've done 3 musicals at the school. We're in the process of our 3rd right now. And that's brought some new energy and excitement, and more kids are joining choir because I'm doing musical theater. So that's been something that's really helping me learn to choir and learn to choir teacher, for sure. André, you thought you were going to be a choir director. Now you're doing a lot of band, even marching band.
Oh,
Tell me, how are you navigating this? How have you navigated that?
Speaking of the kids wearing me down, well, I think first off, I didn't realize when I started teaching what being a full-time teacher meant. I didn't understand how half-time teacher, three-quarter. I mean, it seems simple, but also what does it look like with your health insurance if you don't have a full-time job?
Yeah.
So when I was applying to jobs when I started out, thank you, and I would see 3/4 time choir jobs or half-time elementary music, and then I would call the administrators and they'd say, "Well, we're also missing a half-time band teacher," and I was like, "Oh, I could have a full-time job if I just say I could do both of these things," and so that became the goal with trying to be proficient enough to give the kids a musical experience to maintain full-time employment was kind of how this goal started, of being able to teach multiple ensemble types. One of the things that choir did for me
it was incredibly stressful. Being a baritone and somebody that the choir relied on, doing solo literature, doing operettas and musicals, that's where all my stress with music came. So when I started teaching band, it was less stressful in some ways because I didn't have super high expectations for not just myself, but for the kids. Like, I gave myself a lot of patience, and being at Lewis Palmer with Mike Mazingo and Craig Kettles and Butch Eversole, watching the high-powered music programs they had, and not understanding that I could do that, just automatically assuming my lane's choir, don't even try and mess with band. But then these kids in the rural areas of Colorado wouldn't get a musical experience if I didn't choose to try something outside my comfort zone. So choir became very stressful for me when I started teaching in Uray, because I was like, we need to get ones at contests. We need to send kids to honor festivals. And band was like, I'm just happy everyone showed up. Who needs a read? Like, let's figure this out. And kind of, I learned with the kids, and that's where my desire to become more proficient at band came, as I was being super self-serving to the kids. But one of the things that I was told early on in my career is every kid deserves a musical experience, and every kid deserves an ensemble to be in. And if I'm not going to do it, nobody will. So getting out of that comfort zone and trying something new was step one. Step two was like, okay, let me rememorize. The problem I had in undergrad is I memorized things for the test, I passed the test, then forgot them. And so, like, trying to remember how brass partials work, trying to remember, like, flute embouchure and percussion method, transposing. That's what's great about choirs. It's treble clef and bass clef.
And everybody has a score.
Yeah. So really brushing up on those details that I thought were not going to be enjoyable turned out to be really a really fun thing. And I would learn, when I taught beginning band, I would do every instrument on the same band karate curriculum as the kids. So I'd get to my black belt on flute, and obviously I could pass it on my saxophone. But it was really cool to learn with the kids, and that was a real major victory for me. Some of the other classes I teach, like beginning guitar, intro to theater, some of the college classes I teach. Beginning guitar, as somebody that played guitar since I was middle school, but it was self-taught. I'm playing awesome punk music from the 90s. It wasn't the guitar curriculum that you would expect. So getting the Essential Elements books, Mel Bay puts out a bunch of great literature for beginning guitar. And I think just like I learned with band, getting kids on quality instruments that are meant to be repaired and taken care of, not meant to be color-coded, no offense, was a really great step. But I mean, not just the areas, the classes that we struggle in aren't the ones that we necessarily didn't think we were going to be teaching. We have a ton of struggles in what we consider our main area.
Totally. And I love how you mentioned in your non-expertise class, that's where you're just okay, I'm going to learn with them. That's how I felt, right? I'm just going to learn with them, no high expectations on myself. And that's where it flopped in band. I was like, okay, I've been trained in band. I know what a good band should sound like. And in the last 5 years, I've just felt so much pressure to meet that expectation. The only person that's holding it is myself, right?
Yeah.
To myself. And it's been, sometimes band has been harder to teach than choir, right? My expertise has been harder to teach because, again, I'm holding myself to a higher expectation. I know what it should sound like, and I don't remind myself, oh yeah, you have barriers, right? You're teaching a middle school. It takes a few years to get used to your own program.
Well, I even think in your main instrument, this year, my student that made All-State made it on trumpet, and my sax players didn't make it, and I'm like, man, that's my instrument. Why are these kids not? So I mean, it's just even good. You get this comfort level, and you think you could wing it. And we would spend so much time preparing. I remember when you started teaching, helping lesson plan out choir lessons and
My mentors help me plan out band lessons. Like, there's just so much more intention that goes into planning something you're not prepared for than something you believe you can win.
Totally, yeah. So I'm with you there. Sometimes I feel like a lot of my struggles are in the band world. That's where a lot of my like classroom management stuff comes up, where I'm working on, what is a good routine? What are good procedures to keep so that the class is functional and we can get things done. That's a huge thing in middle school, anywhere you are, right?
And we mentioned this in the last episode, but if a kid's instrument doesn't work, then who's repairing it? When's it going to be repaired? And are we setting that student up? It almost feels like I have to have a fleet of like backup instruments and loaners just to bridge the gap when we can get repairs done.
And then the bookkeeping to that, I just want to hand a kid a clarinet, and then you forget which clarinet you handed them to. So
man.
It's a
the
whole
accounting
thing.
is tough.
Yeah. So there's a whole lot that goes into the job. Not to say that it isn't wonderful, because it is. I love getting to nerd out on all the fun pieces,
Yeah.
on the new Randy Standy piece or whatever, right? That I give to my kids.
We were at Western Colorado University's honor band. Shout out to Brett Keating for putting on a wonderful festival. But like with my 7 band kids that are band kids, and like they're going in force, and they're sitting at high chair placements, and they're contributing positively to the band. And then we go out to dinner, and they're talking about like, oh, I missed this partial on my trombone part, or hey, that tenor sax player sitting next to me has this kind of mouthpiece. What does that look like, Mr. Wilkins? And I feel like not having the space to have that relationship with students makes all that extra work super worth it, because then I get to go work on finding them cooler new things and helping them move on.
Absolutely.
We have a ton of stuff we could ramble off on this if we wanted to. There's everything from choosing. I mean, we haven't even touched on. My biggest thing when I'm in an ensemble that I don't feel comfortable in, is finding good literature that I could teach.
Yes, it's like a whole mystery, right, when you're not in that world.
I think, I've reused so many band pieces. Cortland County Festival by William Owens is always like my go, because I know how to teach it. I've done it so many times. I feel good about it. And, you have to develop a repertoire list that it's okay to reuse in 3 years, because that's what you're good at teaching. You don't have to sight read every piece you put in front of the kids.
Yeah. That's a huge one about literature, about exercises, and figuring out how to develop a characteristic sound as well. Just the techniques to doing that. I would love to hear more from people who are listening. I hope you're out there listening, and we're sharing our struggles, and I want you to share what you're facing too in your programs. What programs do you have? What does your course load look like? Where are struggles coming from? And if you have any solutions for us, please do tell us.
Yeah,
Give me
absolutely.
the answers. I would love for this to be more collaborative. So please email in, comment on this video or podcast, and let us know for our next episode, maybe what are some of your go-to literature pieces in the different ensembles you teach? What are some of the struggles you're facing? What are some solutions that you found to help you get through? This would be really cool if we keep collaborating with each other.
So what's our email address?
Our email, we have an email now, is ruralmusicteacher.pod@gmail.com.
And our Instagram handle?
Rural Music Teacher Pod. I love when it's all lined up.
Yep.
And we're
Facebook?
also on Facebook. That will be a Rural Music Teacher Pod as well.
And feel free to comment your favorite musical moment as a teacher and as a student too.
Yes, we want to hear it.
Yay. All right, thank you all for watching and listening. Have a good one.
Goodbye.